What happens when a country introduces a military policy that quietly requires millions of men to seek permission before staying abroad for more than 3 months, even during peacetime, while simultaneously planning one of the largest defense expansions in Europe? Germany's updated military service framework, effective from 1st of January, includes a clause affecting men aged 17 to 45, and it emerges at a time when Berlin aims to expand its armed forces to 460,000 personnel by 2035. This raises a broader question about how administrative measures, recruitment goals, and security concerns are beginning to intersect in Europe's largest economy without yet clarifying where this trajectory leads. If this situation escalates, the implications extend beyond bureaucratic requirements. A stricter enforcement of such provisions could signal a shift toward partial mobilization readiness, even without formally reinstating conscription. If the policy fails to deliver sufficient recruitment, Germany may move closer to compulsory service, altering civil-military relations domestically. If it succeeds, however, Berlin could achieve a significant increase in military capacity while maintaining a formally voluntary system, setting a precedent for other European states facing similar security pressures. The origins of this policy lie in Germany's long-standing approach to military service. Conscription was suspended in 2011 under Chancellor Angela Merkel, reflecting a post-Cold War environment where large standing armies were seen as less necessary. At that time, Germany's security strategy relied heavily on NATO integration and a relatively stable European security environment. However, this framework has been under increasing strain, particularly following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, which prompted a reassessment of defense readiness across Europe. Germany's current leadership, under Chancellor Friedrich Merz, has placed military capability at the center of national policy. The stated objective is to build the strongest conventional army in Europe, driven by concerns about regional security and uncertainty regarding long-term United States commitments to European defense. This shift is supported by substantial financial measures, including the allocation of more than $500 billion for defense spending between 2025 and 2029. As well as exemptions for defense expenditures from Germany's constitutional debt brake. Within this broader strategy, the updated military service law represents an attempt to address recruitment challenges. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has indicated that the system is designed as a modernized model, requiring all 18-year-old men to complete a questionnaire assessing their suitability for military service. While participation remains voluntary, the policy establishes a mechanism to track and evaluate potential recruits. The inclusion of the travel authorization clause reflects a parallel objective, maintaining visibility over the population that could be mobilized if circumstances change. The clause itself specifies that men aged 17 to 45 must seek approval from a Bundeswehr career center before spending more than 3 months abroad. Although the Defense Ministry has emphasized that the requirement is largely administrative and not subject to penalties, its scope potentially affects millions of individuals, including those pursuing education, employment, or extended travel outside Germany. The ministry has suggested that approvals would generally be granted automatically under current conditions, particularly as long as military service remains voluntary and there is no active security emergency. This provision has historical precedent. Similar rules existed during the Cold War, when governments maintained detailed oversight of eligible conscripts. At that time, the requirement was rarely enforced in practice, functioning more as a legal safeguard than an operational tool. The reintroduction of this framework, even in a modified form, indicates a shift in how policymakers are preparing for potential contingencies, emphasizing readiness without formally declaring a change in military doctrine. Recent developments have brought the issue into public focus. Media coverage of the clause has triggered debate and protests, particularly among younger citizens affected by the new requirements. Demonstrations have included symbolic actions such as placing boots outside government buildings to signal opposition to perceived steps toward conscription. At the same time, uncertainty remains about the administrative process for obtaining travel authorization, including how requests will be handled and how long approvals might take once implementing regulations are clarified. Germany's recruitment targets provide additional context for the policy's significance. The Bundeswehr currently has approximately 182,000 active soldiers and just under 50,000 reservists. The government's goal is to increase these numbers to 260,000 active personnel and 200,000 reservists by 2035. Achieving this expansion through voluntary enlistment alone presents a substantial challenge, particularly in a competitive labor market and a society where military service has not been mandatory for over a decade. One possible scenario involves the voluntary system falling short of these targets. If recruitment levels remain insufficient, political pressure could build for the reintroduction of compulsory service. In that case, the existing administrative framework, including the travel authorization requirement, would provide a foundation for rapid implementation. This would mark a significant shift in Germany's domestic policy and could influence debates in other European countries facing similar security concerns. A second scenario involves the policy achieving its intended outcomes without escalating to conscription. If the questionnaire system and associated measures succeed in attracting enough volunteers, Germany could expand its military capacity while maintaining public acceptance of a voluntary model. In this case, the travel clause would remain largely symbolic, serving as a contingency mechanism rather than an actively enforced restriction. The geopolitical implications of these outcomes are closely tied to Europe's broader security environment. Germany's efforts to strengthen its military contribute to NATO's overall capabilities, particularly in the context of ongoing tensions with Russia. A more robust German military could enhance deterrence and reduce reliance on external actors, while also shifting the balance of responsibility within the alliance. Conversely, any domestic backlash against increased militarization could complicate these objectives, affecting both national policy and collective defense planning. At the global level, the situation reflects a broader trend of states reassessing military readiness in response to evolving threats. The balance between maintaining civil liberties and ensuring national security becomes more complex as governments introduce measures designed to prepare for uncertain scenarios. Germany's approach illustrates how legal and administrative tools can be used to expand flexibility without immediately altering the visible structure of military service. What emerges is a layered policy that operates simultaneously as a recruitment tool, a contingency framework, and a signal of strategic intent. The travel authorization clause, while limited in immediate impact, highlights how even minor provisions can carry broader implications when placed within a shifting security landscape. Its significance lies less in its current enforcement and more in what it enables under different future conditions.